That's it.
All right, let me get some other perspectives in there. Go ahead, She's So Lucky. What are your thoughts about
uh, I think it's the way it's being portrayed in media. I think the way that Black women go about it is more so like, what does the song say? Don't be surprised if she asks where the cash at. They kind of operate what they hand out. It's not that other races of women don't want men to take care of them. It's the way that they're going about it. It's displayed as a transactional, like, if you want this ass, where the cash? You know, that's pretty much how it's displayed, like a prostitute. So, in a sense, when you display it a certain way, you're going to get labels that you probably don't agree with. So, even if you don't subject yourself to that way of thinking, if you display yourself like that, you represent something like that, you look similar like that, you standing with women who think like that, you're going to have that jacket of getting told you're a gold digger. And I think that's the difference. I think it just depends, because they're not saying I want an actual relationship for other qualities that sustain a long-term relationship. They're only looking at it for monetary gain. So I think that's the difference. When you're a gold digger, that's the only thing that you care about. So that means when his financials switch, or he's not at a certain level, or if what I have with your money satisfies me and it's not that important anymore, I'm on to the higher bidder. So I think that's the difference. It's how it's being displayed based on how they have conversations about relationship. They're not talking about the value of the man generally. They're talking about what he can do for her.
it? All right, Bruiser, what are your thoughts, sir?
Now, I was gonna say, I don't know why it's fixated on Black women, but let's just entertain. So, if it's a Black woman, I would say she would be justified to want security, depending on, how her father raised her. If she grew up in a household where she was able to witness a man securing his household, securing her mother, you know what I'm saying, already established, then I would say she'd be justified for wanting a man with security. But like in my case, my situation, I was lucky to meet my wife when, her father wasn't already established. She was able to witness him grind from having nothing to having everything. So that is where I would say I was able to have some type of grace, in my growth, instead of being with a woman who came into wealth, and then her father, looking at the men she bring in the household and like, hey, look, I showed you an example of what a man is supposed to be, and anybody worthy of getting hitched to you. Why would you go get this guy that don't have anything going for himself? So I would say a woman who's justified would be the ones who are, born into wealth.
Okay. Balance. What are your thoughts about it? Why are Black
Well,
women?
hold on 1 second, Jr. What do you mean by a woman that's born into wealth?
When I say born into wealth, I mean for my experience, my wife's father, he retired the military and he retired DOD civilian. So he made sure everything. He had a house, he had cars, everybody had their own vehicles, all the bills were paid, debt was paid for. He had multiple streams of income coming in, and she wasn't necessarily born into that. He had to grind for that. She saw his grind, so that's why I say I had grace, because my wife looked at me as a replication of
Well,
what her
I'm not
father.
talking about your specific. I don't want to make it personal. I'm not talking about your specific issue,
Okay.
your specific situation. Because when I'm thinking about a
Okay,
woman,
so look, take what's Fresh Prince of Bel Air? What's the light skinned girl name on there? I haven't watched it in a long time.
Hillary.
Hillary.
Hillary. Is it Hillary? Okay, so like let's say a guy that doesn't have anything going for himself. He has the potential to get there, but he wants to date Hillary. Can you imagine the standard that she would expect from a guy that's trying to date her, having Uncle Phil with all the riches?
Well,
You get one.
the reason that I say that is because that got to be less than 1% of Black women. It's got to be less than 1% of Black women that's ever born into wealth. Because when I think of born into wealth, I'm not even thinking of being born into a stable household with a guy that makes a decent amount of money. I'm talking about born into a specific situation where you can literally have anything you want at a beck and call. Not that you have security or your father did something. When I say born into wealth, for me, that means you got money. Like you balling. And so That's got to be less than 0.5% of black women in general.
Yeah, I was confused too about wealth.
So in
I'm
the
like,
general
what?
sense, if that's less than 0.5%, and I'm just guessing, I don't know the statistics. If that's less than 0.5% of 0.5%, and we speak into the overwhelming majority of women, then that means that very rarely should any woman have that level of expectation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Go ahead, JR. I'm sorry.
All right. Go ahead and Balance. What are your thoughts about it? Why black women label gold diggers for wanting security with a man?
I think it's to discourage women from hypergamy in actuality. I think it's not just black women that are labeled gold diggers. I think it's women in general, but especially women of color are labeled gold diggers. But I don't think the label has ever stopped a woman from going after what she wants. So I don't think the label actually even matters. Yeah, and for women to want to choose a man that could raise her status in life shouldn't be considered negative or positive. It just is what it is. That's really how I feel about that.
Go ahead,
I
Ali.
see everybody crazy
Well,
tonight. All right.
just like Anton said, I don't. We want to have a show that's gonna be honest, or we gonna. I want to make sure that I don't trigger nobody tonight because the man. This is the problem that happens in society again, where the men is stand on code with the women. Because correct me if I'm wrong, 70% of our women are not married. What's being said in the culture today is women saying they don't need men. Literally say, I don't need men. I don't need a marriage. And most women literally say he got to make as much as money as I do. Though I don't know if I have to keep going because it's just crazy. But it's like, and then the same thing that Anton just asked Mr. Lego is going to happen. I'll call out another one that's going to happen in the conversation. We're going to talk about women who are not doing what they're supposed to do in regardless to men. And then we say, hey, if that woman, you can't hold her accountable, or she can't submit to you, you need to throw out in the street. But then later on, it's going to say, hey, women are like kids. You should accept that. So the same thing's going to happen. And this was happening in society. If we can't admit that women, so let's say this too. I want to make sure I make it clear. There's nothing wrong with a woman asking for financial stability to raise a family, right? We're going to say that. But all the brothers on these panels that I see all the time making videos say that men should push for families, companions, and babies, little babies, right? The women don't say that. Most of the women don't say that. There are a few women that say that. But it's funny that we're making videos addressing the fact that women are saying they don't need men in marriage and saying you got to make as much as me. So if you don't make $100,000, you don't make $200,000, she don't want you.
Well, doesn't that go against the whole gold digger hypergamy thing? If that's what women are saying, I want a man that makes as much and is more. It's not really about I need a man with money. They're like, I need a partner